I'm depressed because, it's 2020 now. I regret not being harsher with Ace and Peter, the band's original guitarists and drummers. Ace Frehley is a legendary guitarist and KISS co-founder. KISS is on the red carpet, oh my god. It's clear that this is not your mother's homeland. It's a country. Thank you so much for being here, Raminator guys, and the legendary rock band KISS arrived. Many thanks. Has left a massive hole in the rock scene after passing away at the age of 74. Okay, so we have some depressing news to share. KISS's original member passed away. The whole music industry was startled by his unexpected passing. Everyone in attendance was left stunned when Gene Simmons took the podium at the memorial service and delivered a strong, poignant, and heavy statement. In that moment, the entire world recognized a rock star who had turned into a legend. Morristown Hospital verified Ace Frehley's death at 3:20 p.m. on the morning of October 16, 2025, EDT. According to the medical report, complications from a cerebral hemorrhage following a fall in the studio a few weeks prior were the cause of death. Frehley was working on his own recording project when the encounter ended suddenly. In a matter of hours, several rock radio stations in the United States modified their programming and began playing his well-known solo tracks, including Shock Me and New York Groove. The music industry was grieving. A brief message was released by the Frehley family. Families and some former co-workers attended the private funeral in their hometown. Regretfully, I've had to perform at a lot of shows about deceased rock stars in recent years, but none have been like this one for me because this person was more than just a rock hero to me. Gene Simmons was the name that made everyone wait among those who came to pay their respects. The picture of two people who had been apart for a long time standing together in the final moments became a representation of a journey filled with strife and a legacy that persisted for over 50 years. Simmons delivered his eulogy calmly as he approached the stage. Ace was the first to cry and laugh while holding a guitar. That energy cannot be replaced by anyone. The sorrowful news did not travel as quickly as the sharing did. Paul Stanley made a statement at the funeral that was aired on national television. We were different, but music kept us in the same world. This was the first time the members of KISS had been seen together since the band had ceased touring. Frehley continued to record new music using well-known classical tones prior to his passing. According to his management, he had finished over 80% of the project that was supposed to be released at the end of 2025. Beyond the Lights, the title of the final recording on the hard drive, is reportedly his most impassioned endeavor in over 10 years. Once Frehley acknowledged, "I have lived my whole life in electronic sounds and black smoke, but every time I stand on stage, I still feel like I am just beginning." The statement was repeated repeatedly in the media as a comprehensive summary of a career that straddled the line between talent and self-destruction, and it was broadcast simultaneously by a number of radio stations in the US and Europe following the funeral. News outlets captured the appearance of numerous artists from the later age, who were formerly regarded as unrestricted creative icons, in a small New Jersey burial home on that particular day. They talked on Ace's musical bravery from his time with KISS till his latter years, rather than sadness. In the middle of the altar was a big photograph of him dressed as a spaceman. The silver Les Paul guitar that Frehley used on his reunion tour was underneath it. Simmons departed the funeral home after the service without doing any interviews and merely posted a brief farewell message on his own social media accounts. Goodbye, spaceman. In memorials, special publications, and even on stages where KISS fans congregated to honor Frehley, the term swiftly gained international recognition. People began to reflect on his entire journey after his death, from his formative KISS years to his rise to fame on his own. The audience is taken back to the beginnings and the development of the distinctive musical genre from those last moments where Spaceman started to leave his indelible mark. The rise of the Spaceman. Ace Frehley was born into a working-class family in the Bronx, New York. He played a guitar that a relative lent him for hours as a teenager, mimicking every move of Jimi Hendrix and the Rolling Stones. At that moment, he realized he could produce a distinctive sound that would later become his trademark. When he met John Simmons and Paul Stanley during a Manhattan audition, the bond was almost instantaneous. The three men were united in their desire to produce music that was bolder, more distinctive, and more powerful than anything else available at the time. Kiss was born out of such concept. In addition to designing his own character, the spaceman, who represents freedom, exploration, and explosive energy, Frehley assumed a main guitar role. He was the first member of the group to use electric flares and light smoke on stage. Kiss was able to go beyond the confines of a conventional rock band because to the image, which swiftly became a worldwide icon. Frehley's rich, resonant, unexpected guitar would always enthrall people when he took the stage. Frehley was instrumental in establishing Kiss's sound in its formative years. He was mostly in charge of the arrangements and composed many of the band's characteristic solos. One of the best examples of this is the song Shock Me. The song, which was written following an electric shock during a performance, became one of Kiss's most famous songs. During an interview, Frehley once declared, "I just wanted to play it like it was the last time I ever picked up the guitar." This statement later served as a manifesto for his impromptu performance approach. Frehley was renowned for his boundless inventiveness in addition to his technical skill. He experimented with new sound effects while recording Love Gun by altering the guitar's construction and flipping the frequency range. The end effect was a loud noise that sound engineers said was explosive. Because of this, he developed a distinctive style that set Kiss apart from many other bands. Due to the group's success, they moved from little stages to enormous stadiums. Kiss became a worldwide sensation, booking concerts and selling millions of CDs. Frehley was the focus of every show during that heyday. The essence of the Kiss brand was Frehley's guitar sound, even though Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley were the band's public faces. However, fame also came with strain. As one American rock magazine reportedly stated, "If Kiss were a planet, Frehley would be the energy that keeps it spinning." Disparities in imaginative thinking started to emerge. Simmons concentrated on corporate strategy, whereas Frehley enjoyed experimenting with sound. Although this resistance did not turn into a confrontation, it did set the stage for future riffs. Due to the group's strict schedule, during the time they released Alive and Destroyer, Frehley had to record a lot of parts independently. He nevertheless finished them to a high standard, contributing solo tracks that are regarded as decade-defining hits. One noteworthy aspect is that Frehley refused to become enmeshed in Kiss's business empire. He continued to write on his own, record his own demos, and try out other playing techniques. Because he always upheld his uniqueness, he gained recognition in the music industry. It became even more evident that Ace didn't follow the rules after Gene Simmons' remarks during the morning ceremony. He was the only member of Kiss who didn't play by numbers, but rather from the heart. Millions of copies of Frehley's debut solo album were sold globally when it was released in the late 1970s. He made a name for himself outside of Kiss with the success of New York Groove. Frehley shone his independence while remaining a member of the band. Additionally, it was the first time that people realized he was more than just a guitarist. He was a creative figure who served as an inspiration to succeeding generations of artists. Frehley gained international recognition as an individual musician and as a member of Kiss thanks to his first solo record and its enormous popularity. The difficulties that awaited him in the musical trip were made clear by that self-affirmation, which also exposed the strains and divisions in his relationship with his comrades. As he entered the latter phases of his career with Kiss, Ace Frehley, cracks beneath the mask, had to contend with a more demanding workplace. The group had to work at a high level of intensity due to the enormous success, which inevitably led to conflicts. Frehley grew weary of the enormous wheel of the Kiss brand as the traveling and recording schedule became more and more demanding. Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons concentrated on refining the image. Frehley wants to maintain the emphasis on the music while growing the band's product and making them a worldwide brand. The group gradually became divided as a result of this divergent viewpoint. Frehley frequently proposed shifting the musical style to a more liberal direction during group sessions. The tension was not loud, but it was clear on every recording, even if Simmons gave priority to the popular element. Frehley was not pleased when his guitar parts were altered or substituted on several projects in order to follow the general direction. The disagreements about creativity turned into a problem that persisted until the end of the decade. Despite their continued financial success, the group's musical structure underwent a significant shift throughout the production of Dynasty and Unmasked. Despite having limited room to express himself, Frehley left his imprint with some great songs like Talk to Me and Hard Times. In the context of Kiss, these songs distinctly displayed his own personality, progressively moving toward a lighter style, even though they did not achieve record sales. In an interview, Frehley once said, "I always wanted every song to have a soul, no matter what album it was on." The group's decision to disband was influenced by the cumulative weariness. After finishing The Elder, Frehley formally quit Kiss in 1982. There was only a quick press statement and no fanfare, but the group's history still bears his touch and his silent exit. After Frehley left Kiss, a new era began in which he was in complete control of his music, but also had to contend with the demands of self-expression. Frehley started his own band, Frehley's Comet, after departing the group. The project's unique hard rock sound immediately garnered recognition. When the debut album was released, it sold a lot and received good reviews from critics. Frehley was able to prove that he was still in shape while quitting Kiss because to the success of the song Rock Soldiers. Frehley concentrated on writing, producing, and performing with his small group of collaborators throughout this time. In the meantime, Kiss remained a massive brand. To keep things running well, Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley brought in new members. Frehley was regarded as an essential member of the group even though he was no longer one. He was dismayed when the Spaceman character was replaced by someone else. However, rather than respond, Frehley decided to go his own way. He thought that authentic music would preserve its worth. After over 10 years of solo endeavors, Frehley surprisingly joined Kiss again for a reunion tour in the mid-1990s. For the first time in over a decade, all four of the original members took the stage together. The audience responded favorably to the performances, which were consistently sold out. The rock community was rocked by the sight of Frehley in his trademark silver costume. One of the highest-grossing shows at the time was this reunion tour. Nevertheless, the peace was short-lived. The old arguments soon came back. In the early 2000s, Frehley left the band for the second time due to the strain of the tour schedule, which caused a change in lifestyle and artistic direction. Then, he said that he would no longer take part in any extended tours. He kept up a cordial contact with his former members, particularly Gene Simmons, while concentrating on his own endeavors after leaving the great stage. "We had a lot of conflicts, but Ace was the one who created the identity that Kiss is based on," Simmons said in a subsequent interview. Many years later, when Simmons gave the eulogy at Frehley's funeral, he reiterated those words. "Without him, our history would be different." Looking back on that time, many critics think that it was the time that really shaped Frehley's character. An artist who desired freedom rather than being constrained by fame. He left the band to preserve his artistic identity, not because he was unhappy, and it was this breakup that allowed him to leave his own legacy distinct from the rest of the band. Frehley's independent actions confirmed that music's worth is not dependent on stage size or glitz. What Ace Frehley left behind after his death was more than just music. It was a unique artistic mindset in the rock world where passion always goes hand in hand with complete honesty. This steadfastness lays the groundwork for the recognition of his legacy, where his personality and style still play a central role, leading the audience back to the core of the music. The legacy of a lone guitar. For months, Frehley's name was prominently featured in music magazines, not to express grief, but to remind people of the ideals he once stood for. In the context of contemporary rock, which is becoming more and more reliant on image and technology, Frehley became a quintessential example of an artist who did not alter who he was, but rather adapted to the times. According to those who have collaborated with him, Frehley always prioritizes the music, whether in the studio or behind the scenes. He believes that all methods or reputations are pointless if they are not connected to the sound, and it is because of this philosophy that his recordings, while not flawless, retain their enduring vitality. A recording engineer once remarked, Ace can play a part wrongly, but everyone wants to keep it because there is soul in it. Frehley's style had a significant impact on many guitarists over the years, and a number of musicians, including Dave Grohl and Tom Mell, have cited him as an inspiration. Many acknowledge that Frehley's approach of fusing classical techniques with contemporary playing was what helped create the hard rock and glam metal styles of the 1980s. Many student guitarists used his early records as an unofficial curriculum. Ace once stated in a V-Hone special, "None of us learned perfection from Ace. We discovered the truth." This impact also permeated popular culture, with Frehley's spaceman persona becoming as a representation of artistic freedom as well as a musical icon. His silver costume, illuminating guitar, and forceful stage presence were replicated in numerous television programs, motion pictures, and even computer games. In the years following his passing, Frehley's name started to appear in lists of individuals who had influenced modern music in the United States, and a musical instrument manufacturer worked with him to create a limited edition guitar known as the AF-01, with the inscription "Inside the Body Fly High Spaceman." All of the products sold out within hours of their announcement. Teachers frequently highlighted his contribution to the transformation of the rock scene into a performance art form where sound, image, and personality all came together in his lectures, helping subsequent generations to realize that rock was about more than simply loud noises. It was about daring to be different. When people think of Kiss, they think of explosion, but if you listen closely, Ace's guitar makes the audience feel the true heart of the band. Frehley was never seen as the guy who left Kiss, but rather as the guy who expanded Kiss with his own identity, as Gene Simmons echoed in a post-funeral speech. When asked about his success, Frehley simply responded, "If I can still hold a guitar and make someone happy when they hear it, that's success." This quote was swiftly inscribed on a memorial plaque donated by fans. Frehley's greatest legacy, aside from his music, is his attitude. He never used fame to flatter himself. He gained respect both inside and outside the music community for his straightforward attitude. Frehley was seen by many as the quintessential artist who never wavered from the truth, even as the spotlight waned. A non-profit organization named the Frehley Foundation for Music Youth was founded after the memorial service. His former friends and family started the organization, which helps underprivileged youth who wish to study music. Since then, the organization has been active, giving out hundreds of scholarships a year. Gene Simmons was the first contributor, stating, "If Ace were alive, he would want to see these kids holding a guitar." The restoration and reissue of Frehley's original recordings in a collection titled Starchild and Spacemen, the original cassettes, is another way that his legacy has been preserved. Previously unpublished guitar recordings from the mid-1970s are the main emphasis of this collection. Sometimes there are spontaneous outbursts of laughter or brief talks, but that's what makes the sounds so precious. According to numerous commentators, this collection helps listeners better grasp how Frehley created his own style, which is unfiltered, natural, and lively. His final public image shows a modest musician grinning while discussing music in a little studio, standing next to his vintage instrument. Just the eyes of someone who has been on every stage and still feels the same joy. No makeup. "Every sound I make comes from real emotion," Frehley once stated in his final interview. This phrase has been used repeatedly in memorial events as a confirmation of his life and work. When you play from the heart, people hear it. Ace Frehley's music and the principles he left behind will endure in every one of us, as his journey and legacy have just been shared. Please like and share this tale if it inspires you so that your friends are aware of Spaceman's legacy. To avoid missing out on more frank and poignant music tales like this one, subscribe to the channel. Additionally, don't forget to share your memories or your current favorite Ace tunes in the comments section. With each note, let's preserve Ace Frehley's essence.